I'll tell you, I could use some CBD right now. We're mere hours before night 2 of WrestleMania. But Jim, before we move on too far from the AEW stuff, one last thing, because a lot of the listeners did send it in, and we're not recording another drive-through until tomorrow. So I want to make sure we get it in. I have Tony Khan's response from the Ring of Honor post-show scrum to Brandon Thurston's questions about the releases. A lot of the listeners wanted to get your takes on this. So we've talked about different things, and Swami's barking. It's just a mess here. No one knows.
Oh, don't blame the dog. Everybody's upset about these budget cuts. Are you kidding? But and Brandon's budget minded. He's a cruncher of the numbers. He'll get to the bottom of this, won't he?
Well, let's go to this audio. Tony Khan talking about budget cuts.
Hi, Tony. Brandon Thurston, WrestleNomics. With the releases that just happened, you said that it was for budget reasons, right? So, and that's the first time there's been releases for budget reasons. I know in the past there's been contracts that have expired, but you've talked about loyalty and wanting to keep people on until their contracts expire. I know there's been some exceptional cases otherwise, but does that represent a policy change for you? And if so, can you tell us what led to that?
The entire time that Brandon Thurston's question is being asked, Tony Khan is reacting with his face. He's making approving nods. He's kind of selling, ooh, that's interesting with his face. He's nonstop action, this guy.
Nonstop action.
Let's go to his answer.
And by the way, when people ask Tony questions, he's not a physically intimidating figure, but people have this level of apologetic tone. Have you noticed in their voice, or they kind of like a little mea culpa dip in there already? Like, I know you might not want to answer this, but I'd like to ask you about it. Is that just me, or does that not happen normally at press conferences?
Hey, we've heard that guy from The Observer almost apologize for having to ask questions dealing with the realities of the negative stuff around AEW. But let's go to Tony.
He's like Billy Mooney in the Twilight Zone episode. In the Twilight Zone episode. It's a good thing. Don't wish him into the cornfield, Tony. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, let's go to this. Tony Khan answering Brandon Thurston's question.
Well, it's a great question. I think that this year I have been very active, not only in the free agent market, but in the production budget. You know, there are things tonight, like, for example, on one song alone, I spent a year's pay for most pro wrestlers in this business. And the budget with not only...
Let me stop it right there. Again, this is about the budgetary reasons that he fired some wrestlers who can't afford cars or places to feed their family or live. But he rented a song.
What song did he pay that much money for that night? That was a Ring of Honor show he's talking about. That, right?
That's right.
He paid a year's salary for a wrestler for a song on a Ring of Honor show? Is that what I just heard him say?
That is indeed what you heard him say.
Well, let's hear him say some more.
And the budget with not only free agency, but production is very high. And also, we're going into a contract year, and I plan to continue being very active, not only in free agency, but in the production of the show and producing great content. And going into this year.
Well, again, the question is about why these wrestlers got fired for budgetary reasons when that was never the policy previously.
Well, but he's trying to say it without saying it, that he's spending more money on wrestlers, free agency, and he's spending more money on production. But it's not hard to spend more money on production without making the show look a goddamn dick's bit of difference if you're spending six figures on a goddamn song. How do you think that the people in the locker room, whether they are currently employed or whether they've just the ones that have just got the axe, as they say, if it was like, we've got to cut our budget because we've been running NBA buildings that were only a quarter full, or we've got to cut our budget because we just signed a bunch of new stars, guys could understand that maybe. Okay, the boys.
Tony, we fixed the budget problems. We're going to have the boys fly out of Nashville.
Yeah, that's what I've said. You could understand if it was, we've got to cut the budget because we're losing fucking millions of dollars every week, or we've got to cut the budget because we've got to sign some new stars to try to make a difference in our business. but we've got to cut the budget. But boy, that $100,000 I spent on fucking, incense and lollipops and rainbows or whatever the fuck on the song is, I don't understand what he's doing.
Here, I have to look at where we're at, and I've really I'd spent more than I had planned going into this year. So I really love our roster and where we're at. I am very supportive of everybody we have here and everybody that's ever worked here. I think I really appreciate everything they did when they were here. And this particular group, it was not an easy set of choices to make. And in particular, with this group of wrestlers we just released, I would be happy to take any of them back under the right circumstance. I have no bridge burned with any of them. And like I said, even with the boys, I disagree with the point on travel, and that in the history of ROH and working with us, that there hadn't been a couple times where they didn't make it and maybe change stuff. But on the other hand, I really like both of them. And, whether we agree or not about that point of contention, I think it's regardless. I think that they were great. They were a great part of Dalton's act. I like both the Tates.
So I fired him. Like, what is this? All the people I fired, I would absolutely take them back under the right circumstances. What circumstance is that? Tony, I can't afford to feed my family. Take me back.
Well, no, but again, we can't blister him for not being a businessman, then blister him when he's a businessman. Under the right circumstances means if I didn't have another 175 guys that I've got to pay and I'm not drawing any money. And I can understand that if he just say, we got to fucking at some point, no matter what it is, but then he contradicts himself with the rights fees for these songs for it. Goddamn Pockets, the company mascot, gets a goddamn commercial piece of music that they had to pay something for. If you're just wasting money for that nobody understands, that it doesn't mean anything for him, except the movie where he ripped off his gimmick also contained this song. What the fuck? But you can't do both. You can't, to preserve the goodwill with the roster. Even the boys are the boys. They're, it's terrible that this guy that never wrestles and nobody cares about him got fired after he's been here for 3 years. But you can't keep the goodwill of your roster together if you're cutting wrestlers while still doing stupid shit with your money, like the music rights for underneath guys, or the giant arenas that you can't come close to filling, or the excesses that we see him go to, instead of just concentrating on improving the product. But nevertheless.
Yeah, I mean, Tony had the option. He could have kept all these people on the roster, or he could get rid of them and use that money for one Mercedes Moné and 4 songs.
No, these 10 guys didn't equal one Mercedes Moné, I bet you, much less 4 songs.
Like everybody we released in this batch recently, and I have wishing nothing but the best for any of them. And, I think for us this year, it's a really important year, and I'm really looking forward going into the media rights year to, like I said, being very aggressive and putting our best foot forward, doing the best wrestling we can. And I'm thinking and have good thoughts and wishing the best, and very open-minded about everybody.
Have good thoughts.
Stop for 1 second, because, it's almost stupid that he made everything from day one centered around the media rights thing in terms of what he was telling people publicly. Because he showed his hand publicly, and now something better happened there.
But at the same time, that's told the media companies, right? This is not a goddamn program that people are going to cut their nuts off to bid for in this particular environment. And if the media companies know that this deal is contingent, or their profitability of their company or how far they go is contingent on this deal, doesn't that give them the opportunity to say, well, take it or leave it? Or start lower than they would? You see what I'm saying?
I always thought it put them in a funny position with Warner Brothers Discovery, because even if your friend is a top executive there saying publicly, yeah, we're doing this because we're going to ask for a giant raise in 5 years.
Yeah.
You're saying that out loud. Why are you saying that out loud? That'd be what I would be saying. But Tony's saying that because of this, and it is important, he's doing all these things. They're trying to make the show great. This is them trying as hard as they can in the media rights renewal year. And the ratings are dropping. And he thinks this is his best foot forward.
Just released, but also I expect that there will be people that will want to come to AEW. I think really AEW and ROH were doing great wrestling, but also this is a great place to work. And I believe that everybody that has worked here that was in that group that are not with us, I have nothing but the best wishes for any of them. And they were all different circumstances, all different people. People are all different, and these are human beings. And I have a lot of respect for all of them.
So why should it be?
And like I said, they're all different circumstances. But for the company at this time, I thought it made sense. Thanks, Brent.
All right, we'll do two more, and we'll.
All right, let's stop it there.
I think Tony's done enough. He don't need to do two more.
What do you think of Tony's response to this question about the releases? Fair answer?
Awfully wordy and not really specific in any instance. But basically, yes, I don't know why this is. The only reason it's a big thing is because Tony is noted for not ever letting anybody go, no matter whether they're being used or not, or he has the opportunity or not, or whatever. And some of that could be considered an admirable trait, except that he got himself talked into hiring 200 fucking wrestlers. And think about the people that we still haven't seen forever. You don't see for years at a time. They live in foreign countries. They still get paid. So this is negligible, and more of it needs to go on if they were running this thing with any kind of concern for business, because it's not even knocking the product to say that there are 30 or 40 people on that roster. I guarantee you could find, whether they're talented or not, that ain't been used, ain't going to be used, ain't on fucking TV, and are, what the fuck? Let them go do something else. Bring them back later on when there's room. Boom, done. They've gotten an incredible amount of money per capita per match, apparently, that either we never fucking see them. So, does Mark Henry still work there?
I think so. I don't watch Rampage, right? He used to do the thing on Rampage where he would introduce the main event.
That was a lot. I haven't seen a clip. I haven't seen his name mentioned. Haven't heard him talked about. But I'm just...
Is Mark Henry the best paid commentator in wrestling history per word? Per word spoken on camera.
He set a record when they signed him to his first contract. He had his debut match with Lawler on pay-per-view and then got hurt in training and didn't work for a year and a half, but got paid. And I'm not knocking Mark. I'm just saying that's the way things worked out. And everybody was going, Jesus Christ, he made like $375,000 for a match at a time when that was a lot of fucking money for a match, even. That first year and a half. But anyway, where were we? Was Tony done?
Tony's done. We're done with Tony, but that was Tony Khan. His any closing comments on his budgetary concerns leading to these cuts?
Yes, Tony, we'll send for you if we need you. Until then, you're dismissed. And I think he ought to dismiss a few more and maybe try to pare down the size of those arenas a little bit until you're ready to put some people in them.